Hello, and welcome to Premium Bytes, where we shine a light on the unsung world of insurance technology leaders. I am Sudhar Krishnamachari, one of your co-hosts, and with Samir Ahmed, our other co-host, we're here to have meaningful conversations about the evolving technology landscape inside the insurance industry. Let's acknowledge it. Being an insurance firm CIO or Chief Information Officer is one of the toughest leadership roles in today's world. You've got a risk-averse mindset baked into the very fabric of the industry, a legacy estate that must complement the modern tech, and a talent crisis from both the retiring side and next-gen recruiting side. And then you got the slower pace of innovation. We see it because we're right there in the trenches with you as consultants day in and day out. Our mission is to deep dive, have conversations that carry substance, offer practical insights, and help you validate and navigate the relevant challenges of being an effective CIO in the insurance sector. So thank you for joining us on this adventure. Let's jump right into our next conversation. Hey, Samir, welcome back.
Hey, Sudhar, welcome back to you as well. How you doing?
Great. I'm doing great. Good to be back on our podcast virtual tour.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, any thing you've heard from folks about the last one around innovation?
Yeah. No, I casually pinged a couple of my folks about, I think we did one on innovation. And I think prior to that, I think there was also one episode on our news, call it Roundup. I think, but folks obviously are saying that, hey, it's good. It's a lot of discussion. And there's some encouragement that they find that we're speaking to the right audience in their language. But as always, there's some feedback that, maybe you guys can just, edit it and cut it out to maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatnot. I don't think we've gotten around it. But overall, I feel like there's not a whole lot of other content out there. So that's why people are recognizing that there's some, merit in following us and subscribing to us.
Yeah, I can certainly see that. Ironically, I was at a event earlier this week, and there was a panel conversation around innovation, and one of the panelists was actually describing his role as operational aspects of innovation. And basically what he was describing was what we in our discussion had called the small I innovation, that take something, make it better, take something else, make it better, take the third thing, the next thing, make it incrementally better, and then cumulatively it adds up to quite a bit. So
yeah
but
no, that's great. I'm glad we're back on the conference circuit too, so I guess that was your opening innings this year.
Yeah, it was. There were actually a couple events earlier in February that we bowed out of this year. But the first one of the year under the belt. The next one coming up in 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah. But as always, we thank our audiences for continuing to listen and support and refer us to other listeners, suggest topics, whatnot. So appreciate all that. But to your point, what are we discussing today? I think it's one of your favorite topics. I know you've been thinking a lot about it, and so I'm eager to have a conversation around this.
Yeah, the topic, to go back a little bit, right, is in our very first episode, there were several items where we, commented that, hey, this is a involved topic, and perhaps we dedicate an episode to it. So today's topic is one of those, right? That organizations have analytics capabilities, especially in insurance, right? We can even think about insurance as fundamentally about analytics, a business rooted in analytics, right? One can say that actuaries were the original data scientists, right? So,
correct.
When it comes to the fundamentals of insurance business, it's all about predicting what could happen with a given policyholder, right? And how to rate it and price it, and how to reserve across the book of business and all of that. Uh, but in modern times, and maybe with some increasing speed here, the use of analytics is spreading across the entire organization and enterprise, right? So it's no longer just the fundamental aspects of insurance that are leveraging analytics, but even aspects such as personalizing products or providing product recommendations becomes rooted in analytics, or attaching fraud detection capability to a claims function uh, based on advanced sort of anomaly detection algorithms. Now you start to see analytics pervading the organization. So it generates this question of where does the analytics capability belong within an insurance organization? Because part of it is engineering and programming and data crunching. Part of it is statistical techniques and regression models and things of that sort that are not typical, software engineer type of function. So, should this belong within the IT org? Should it belong within a business unit? Should it be a standalone function? Should it be some combination of these, right? So I think organizations are wrestling with this, and there's no clear answer. And so I thought it was appropriate to actually spend some time discussing, well, why is it this way? And is there perhaps a way to think about this that may hint at how to set it up? So, long introduction and
Yeah,
context, but that's something that we identified in our first episode. And today I'm hoping we can unpack it a little bit further.
I think that's a very relevant topic. And in the past, I think we've done this before, where we talked about agile and architecture, and we kind of took a position on if they both are important or not, and we took a position that they both are important, and there need to be a way to find a way to have them together. But here, I don't know if there's an answer where we can say, hey, this is the way it should be structured within IT or outside or whatnot. So I think we have a point of view on there's different shades of gray. So there are different factors that needs to be thought through. So first, I thought maybe we should just lay out what are the factors, and then maybe we'll unpack a few of the factors and then talk through other emerging things like AI and things of that nature.
Yeah, sounds great. One thing, right, real quick, is maybe observations of what models I've seen in my work with
Yeah.
insurers, right? So one is that you see analytics function just lives within the IT division. Anybody that needs uh, reporting capability or analysis, they go to an IT team, and that team performs the analysis and provides the results. I've seen a second model where every business unit that has a need for analytics, they have a few people that have this capability, and they do their own analysis and analytics. And maybe they need some support from the IT division in terms of getting access to the data. But once they get access to the data, they house it, structure it, modify it, do their own analysis, etc. Third model I've seen is that you have a single analytics team, but it's not in IT. It's either standalone or it's in one of the other business functions, like maybe inside of finance or maybe inside of the actuarial division of a insurance firm. And then the fourth, right, is some combination of this. It's maybe not any one of these three alone, but maybe there's some analytics within business units, maybe some analytics within IT, maybe some analytics within actuarial, and then they work together. So these are the four different ways I've seen it organized. And then I would also say that I don't see this as a static team topology. I see organizations move between these. They may start with one, they may move to another, then later on they may evolve to something else, so on. So that's the way I've seen it. I'm curious if you see anything different or you've seen the same.
No, that cuts across all the kinds of models that I'm familiar with. I can also personally attest to this idea of each business unit having their own kind of analytics as a capability, because from my past life working on the carrier side, that's kind of the model that I was used to. But again, I was on a very large carrier side. But I can imagine if you're a relatively small or mid-sized carrier, you can't afford to build or expect the individual units to build this capability. So there's probably an appetite to semi-centralized, if not fully centralized,
Yeah,
operating model there. But at the same time, like you said, I think there's it's not a strict framework. It's very dynamic. So I think you talked about the four kinds of models, and maybe in my head I'm thinking like, well, then there are maybe four or five factors that one needs to consider. Maybe we start with the first one. Is maybe we should talk about what is the intent of analytics as a function, right? Some would argue that, well, we used to do reporting. What is different from what we used to do? So let's talk through that, because I'm sure we have a point of view on the spectrum of reporting to call it business intelligence to run the business.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the way I think about it, right there's a sort of some consideration for, do you view analytics as, a foundational skill that just everyone should have, right? We're in an age where we're dealing with data. We want to be a data run organization. So if that's the kind of view the leadership of an org takes, right, then they set the expectation that, look, this is a foundational skill. Everyone ought to have it. So that then starts to point at, well, it cannot be centralized. It cannot be just a few people that can perform this function, right?
Correct.
On the other hand, right, if you view this as, no, there's a lot of specialization here. You are using very specific techniques and you're using very specific tools. Well, then you're not going to train everybody in how to do statistical modeling and how to run regressions and how to uh, train a algorithm to assist with the analysis and how to use the specific tool set for it. So that starts to hint at, there must be some concentration of skill sets within a team or within a division, right? So as a starting point, right, I would say this is one set of considerations. Uh, I'm not sure what you think about it, but at least that's the first one that comes to mind.
No, I will go back and requote what you quoted at the beginning. You kind of alluded to this idea that actuaries were the original data scientists, right? And I think so too. So yeah, like if you are a chief actuary, you have an army of actuaries. Perhaps you already inherently have the skills and the technical abilities to do sophisticated analysis and analytics functions. But put yourself in the shoes of a claims officer. On a day-to-day basis, all they're dealing with, maybe 1,000 calls a day on different kinds of claims, and so they're not necessarily data and analytics intensive. So I can imagine that they want to lean on a team that has all of these technical abilities, but still be able to help them with kind of understanding the operational dynamics of the business and make decisions on what to do on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it does resonate with me that there are probably two sides to this.
yeah.
Um,
And this may not be either or, right? It may be a progression, right? That you start with a few people that must do this. They start to develop the skill. Over time, a basic level of skill starts to emerge across everybody, and there's elements that become foundational, but then there's still some advanced techniques for analysis that remain with a few individuals that are specifically skilled and trained and practice the
Correct.
techniques and have access to tools. So yeah, so that's at least one set of considerations, right? So as I think about this, right, the next set of considerations is, well, how big is the organization? Because the size of the organization, dictates how much can be spent on certain functions, right? So one of the things, right, is that spend on technology, for example, within insurance firms is pretty, I would say, consistent as a percentage of premium, right? Somewhere in the high threes, maybe low fours is where an org's IT spend is going to be. So the bigger you are, the more dollars you can spend while still staying at that between 3 and 4% level of spend, right? So what's the relevance of that? Well, the relevance is that if you're a bigger firm, you can afford to have specialized skills and specialized tools and go deeper into the capability. Whereas if you're a smaller firm, you got to operate leanly, right? And you then have to just ensure that, well, actuary knows how to do their analysis, and the claims team needs to knows how to do their analysis, and the marketing team does their analysis, and they learn from each other. But ultimately, there is no other quote unquote analytics expert or team that everybody can turn to. So that's at least a second set of considerations. And
The only contrarian point that pops in my mind is I think you're right. One could argue that, hey, I'm not going to spend money on a specialized set of centralized capabilities, so you all have to build this yourself. Or maybe we put a very small team, a very lean, centralized team that has all just the technical capabilities, not the business domain expertise, right? So you already said marketing, and you said actuarial, and then you said claims, and then product divisions, whatnot, right? So maybe that's another shared model, which is why I think you had a fourth model, which is kind of a hybrid, right? Sometimes it's not completely on the business, completely on the IT, but like a shared federated model.
Yeah, that's right. And not only that, but I think it starts to get to maybe the third set of considerations, which is that, look, to do analysis, you need data, right? We're in times when our use of technology is increasing, and even the smallest of firms will have many systems, and therefore the data is in many places. And when you want to do meaningful analysis, you got to gather all the data, make it, put it in a form that is useful for that specific purpose. So you end up with this split, right? There's an element of data management, and then there's an element of analytics and analysis after the data management. So perhaps the data management is what becomes specialized, centralized, commonly available.
Specialized to a degree.
And then the analytics still remains distributed, or even the analytics can eventually start to become concentrated and have a standalone team.
It's an interesting point you're making. Used to be that there was chief data officer, and then it was like that. Chief CDOs became CDAO, chief data and analytics officers, and then it was just CAO, chief analytics officer. So there's an evolution happening between data and analytics, but I think they're very, very tightly bound with each other. So I think that we can almost peel the onion in its own way on like the stack of the data, right? There's this, to your point, there's assembling of the data. There's then creating the warehouse or the lakes around it, and then being able to put plumbing in and out, and then eventually build an analytics tool capabilities, and then the final, analysis of working with the business, etc. So
that's absolutely correct, and then that bleeds into maybe the next set of considerations, right? Why are you doing this analysis, right? There's one version which is that you do analytics, you develop some reports out of it, and these are traditionally what I would call people describing as reporting on the business. What did we do? What were the results? And what action does it impact, right? It may not be an immediate action that you take. It may be with some lag that you realize that, oh, I need to, based on this report, we've been talking about IT spend as a percentage of premium, right? So you could report on what is our IT spend, and then you see, it's starting to inch up, and then maybe the CEO has a conversation with the CIO that let's get this back in line with industry average, and so on. But then there's another kind of analytics, right, which is very close to, I don't know what next step to take. Let's do some analysis. Let's be informed by what the data is telling us, and then take the step. So this is more what I would call analytics to run the business itself. And the back to kind of where we started, the fundamentals of insurance a little bit were like that, right? That how much should I reserve? Well, let's go look at our book, look at our risk profile, look at our premiums, look at our claims experience, look at what we expect in the macro economic outlook, and that then tells us how much to reserve, and then we adjust our reserves up and down. So this is a very specific decision I'm making based on the analysis. Or product pruning, right? This product is performing well. This product is not performing well. Okay, do some analysis, identify which specific coverages are useful, and then come up with a new product that takes the best of what we had, and off you go, right? So that becomes the next consideration, right? That if we're performing analysis to run the business, well, you're back in that boat of every function needs to be doing this. You cannot just simply rely on a few specifically trained people to do it. But if you're still in the mode of most of the analytics is for reporting purposes, well, you could remain functional with a standalone or centralized team.
Correct. Yeah, no, this brings up a point that I wanted to just pick your brain on. This is somewhat unprepared, but it might be an interesting few minutes of dialogue around this. Is this whole idea of digital twin is emerging out there, where in the past, IT and data was helping the business, but they were somewhat like two different things. But now there's this idea that every business, there's something happening in the real world, but then there's actually a twin of that real world in the digital world, that you're able to get a real-time view of what is happening in your business through your digital, call it technology ecosystem, and that you're able to make some decision points based on the digital platform, and that goes back into the real world, and then the feedback comes right back in. So data and analytics is not like a separate function. It is kind of embedded inside that digital twin as a broad platform and capability. So just curious what your perspective was.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Again, kind of getting to, it starts to point at, this is elements of it are foundational, and therefore we cannot just rely on a few people having specialized skill and specialized tools, but start to, democratize is this fancy word that practitioners sometimes use, right? Democratize data, democratize tools, so on. The citizen programmer, the citizen scientist, right? So all these are sort of phrases that you start to see that become popular.
Correct. Yeah. And the other aspect that I really like about this whole idea of digital twin and analytics is it moves you away from reporting into running the business. But in order to run the business, you need to know the business. And so in order to know the business, you need to be kind of even in the business or close to the business. So one could theoretically argue that the more you're on the centralized model, then you're separated from the business. But the more you're on the federated model, you're kind of somewhat embedded. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm, again, probing something that is off the cuff, is will eventually everything gravitate towards analytics becoming a core capability sitting within each business unit? Just like, nobody is saying that, oh, if you want to use Excel, you got to go to this ABC team to use Excel or to learn to use Excel. Or everybody is supposed to expect to know how to use Microsoft Office and Excel and things like
Yeah. Look,
that,
I'm a consultant, and you're asking me to make a prediction, and my answer is going to be, well, it depends. And no, I mean, kidding aside, right? I don't know, and I don't know that anybody can claim that they know this is where it's going to land. Sure, you can make a prediction, but things will play out the way they play out, right? And in particular, right, it's the early days of AI right now, and how is this going to impact this team topology, right? I think it's yet to be seen. Uh,
I think it
it
complicates
does,
it
it
even more.
does.
As such, we have so many variables and factors, it becomes an n by n matrix,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. Something like that, right? Or maybe there's a model that you can fit in the answers to this, and it spits out, this is what you ought to do. uh, but
That's right.
no, I mean, look, just to add a little bit color to that, right? What I mean, or what's in my head when I say it. Um, and we're gonna have a episode in a couple weeks here specifically on this topic, so just maybe sneak preview of that as any organization thinks about increasing its adoption of AI, right? It's almost like thinking of it in three layers. There's AI that is enabling basic productivity for individuals, right? Tools that do meeting summarization, and tools that can, suggest how to reduce the reading level of writing to make it simpler and more accessible, and tools to get answers to questions off of a repository of information, and so on, right? So this is nothing to do with insurance. It's
Mhm.
equally applicable no matter which organization you go to. So these start to become foundational tools. Then you get to, there's AI rooted tools that are specific to insurance. Things like take aerial imagery of a property and identify what kind of risks we should be underwriting for, right? Maybe there's what type of roof there is, what kind of shrub coverage there is, what kind of um, other structures are around the building, and so on, right? So these are specific tools, but this is not something every organization needs to build, right? These are commercially viable products. And so maybe one or two or three companies will build something, and one is better than the other for some specific purpose, so on. But you start to use commercial tools for this. And then the third layer, right, is the organization building a very specific AI model, and actually not solely buying a solution, but rather building a solution or assembling a solution that has elements that are off the shelf. So where I'm going with it, right, is that this starts to then get to that hybrid kind of model, right? That there's some aspect of analysis that requires foundational tools. Everybody should have them. Everybody should be able to perform this. There's some aspects that get to specialized tools, so only a few people have the tools. And then the third one is even more specialization around how to build newer and better tools and models, which is an even further concentrated set of people. So where do we land, right?
Yeah.
That's what I meant by my first answer, that it depends.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be an interesting discussion with Mitch, double clicking on some of this. I think you laid out a good framework. I'm also thinking that maybe this whole idea of large language models and chat GPT, like consumer facing text-based tools are clouding the market and trying to take away the value and the merit of the traditional, advanced analytics capabilities, like, doing good modeling and doing good predictive analytics and things of that nature, right? So I think that would be a worthwhile discussion, because I still think that a lot of our insurance technology leaders are probably more focused on that part, and maybe not as completely disinterested in this large language model related stuff, but to a degree, I think they can go in parallel, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's clouding.
It is, and certainly it's early days of Gen AI. Just to state the obvious, it has to mature, and some patterns will emerge, and who knows, in a year, if we have this conversation again, we may think of it very differently.
Yeah, I can imagine that there's a third speaker in these podcasts, a complete avatar that will participate in a very productive dialogue with you.
Absolutely.
Hey, I think we're right about time. Maybe we should just bring it back home, and then maybe I'll take a stab at giving you a couple of summary points, and then feel free to feed off of me. But I think we started off by acknowledging that whether analytics belongs to IT or outside IT, it's really a very broad question that requires peeling the onion on several factors. Including the size of the organization, your landscape, your priority for what analytics means, and the complexity of the data ecosystem and things of that nature. So there's really no exact answer. I think Samir alluded to the four models. The models being, obviously you can centralize within IT if you want, or you can kind of spread it across each business unit. Or you can centralize outside of IT, whether it belongs as an independent organization or within finance or other parts of the company. They're all open questions that you'd have to work through and think through, and we're happy to take part in that dialogue and conversation with you guys. But the final point being that AI throws another wrench into this, and we'll have a deeper discussion on it. But again, Samir, that's my summary, so feel free to add more color to it.
I think well said and well summarized. The only thing I will add is, actually, for all of you listening in and watching, are you grappling with this? Are you wrestling with, hey, some parts of what we do is working, some parts are not working? Are we organized the best way we could be? How are others organizing themselves? I'd love to hear how you think about this. I'd love to hear what the challenges are, and would welcome a conversation around this. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah. Well completed there. Appreciate it. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment on it, and then please refer your colleagues to have a listen in. Suggest topics, add some counter arguments, challenge us, reboot us. So we'll be thrilled to continue this dialogue offline. All right. Thanks, guys.
And that's a wrap for today's conversation on PremiumBytes, where we shine a light on the unsung world of insurance technology leaders. Thank you for joining us on this adventure and being part of our community. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and follow us. Until next time, take care.